Greetings, blessed souls. We are mere hours away, less than 30 hours away from the festival of our freedom, Chag Pesach, and yet in the spirit that I think my father, Reb Shlomo Yaakov, Olav Shalom, Ben Huna Dovid would want, I want to share some information with you. First of all, today I got a message, a private message via Facebook from a young man from England concerning a perilous situation with a young Jewish woman who is almost at the point of going to the next level of life. And her name is Chaya Leah Rachel bat Ester. She's in critical condition. They say that she has no brain activity, so let's pull together. Storm the heavens and do anything we can, even if it's small, in the name of Chaya Leah Rachel bat Ester, so we can bring a quick, speedy, and complete refuah. And being that when we talk about Chag Pesach, the festival of our going out of Egypt, we're talking about a time when our nation, another nation, for us it was a peaceful way. I guess it wasn't so peaceful for the Egyptians. But with that being said, what happened, happened. So we approach this presentation soberly, but with the hopeful, joyful expectation that Chaya Leah Rachel bat Ester, in the schus of my father's passing, Reb Shlomo Yaakov, Ben Ester, or Ben Huna Dovid. Excuse me while I seem to be a little confused. It's not that I'm just trying to manage the logistics of working this Google Hangout, this broadcast. That's okay. So with that being said, we're just trying to I want to just get feedback here from the monitor here. Yes. You should, I'm doing a broadcast on the internet now, so please do what you have to do, but let me finish with the broadcast. Bye. That was my son who's helping me. And we can see this is a live broadcast with all the foibles that can take place when you're doing a live broadcast. And I'm just trying to get back to where I was. So please bear with me. It's kind of elongated my presentation here. And just see if we can. I think we have it now here. Okay. I'm just trying to get back to where I was. And I think I am back where I was. Bear with me. It's kind of elongated my presentation here. Here we are. So we're back live here. And we're going to get rid of hopefully the feedback you might be hearing, in order that we can do a proper projection. So I greatly apologize for these snafus. You know, we have Murphy's Law, and now we're dealing with Don's law, meaning in my world mistakes can happen. I'm not ashamed to say that I can be the source of those mistakes. Okay, so now let's go now and learn for Chaya Leah Rachel Bas Ester. Most for the elevation of the soul of my father, Reb Shlomo Yaakov. Thank you for bearing with my glitching it up. When we get to the celebration of our Festival of Freedom, Blessed Souls, which will start tomorrow night, for those of us living in Chutz La'aretz, outside of the Holy Land, Israel, we'll have 2 nights of celebratory, what we call Sidorim. Seder means an order, in a linear fashion, but Pesach also refers to Pesach, the mouth will speak. And when we speak, we can be tangential, we can be quantum, and also we can be linear in our reasoning. But either way, we want to infuse our reaffirmation with the birth of our nation back in that earlier generation for this coming festival in every nook and cranny of creation, for each and every nation, which can extract out some sort of Torah revelation. I'm plucking inspirations from a teaching from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from almost 51 years ago, that when we consider the number 4 is very significant. Number 4 corresponds to the 4 letters of the ineffable name of the Most High Creator, the Yud, followed by the Hey, followed by the Vav, followed by the Hey, which also corresponds to a portion of the Passover celebratory meal to 4 sons who are giving us a general presentation of 4 levels of consciousness that children, and I might add parenthetically, children of all ages, can evidence where they're holding at that particular time, but grow from those levels. We have one son who is a righteous son. We have a second son who is a wicked son. We have a third son who's kind of like a simpleton. And we have a fourth son who doesn't even know what to ask, meaning when they look at the presentations of the various festival foods that are placed on the table, each one alluding to an historical event that took place in Egypt over 3,300 and almost 28 years ago, we don't know what it means. And to our great pain, there are still many members of our people who don't know what all of this means. They're gathering together of the family and friends, members of the greater community. It's a ritual, but by us it's not a ritual, it's an instruction. And that's the difference between basically those of us in the Torah observant communities as opposed to those members of the Jewish community who want to ritualize away a significant seminal point in our history, while we who are blessed and humbled simultaneously by the merit to be celebrating this festival of freedom want to draw an additional instruction. And it might be an instruction that we learned the previous year. But if we notice in our lives, blessed souls, that when we talk about an instruction, and even though if we're well aware of that instruction, somehow it can energize us, motivate us, and help us to internalize a brand new consciousness. So when we talk about the 4 sons that sit at the Seder table who ask questions, and even the one that doesn't have a question, and we emphasize these can be alluding to 4 sons of all ages, meaning even if one doesn't have children at one's Pesach Seder, at the celebratory meal, we can have adults who are at the level of righteous, wicked, simpleton, and one doesn't even know how to ask. but by the very fact that they are coming to the table to celebrate in the most existential fashion the remembrance of the birth of our nation, there's been a renewal of spirit, of, first of all, unity, trust in the Creator, that this is not just a matter of ritual, but is a matter of reliving the experience, and see from reliving the experiences of the past, we can integrate it and bring it into the present and hopefully into our future lives. And the Rebbe mentioned during this Hasidic discourse that there are many matters of the Pesach Seder which correspond to the number 4, the Mispar Arba'a. For instance, for those of you who know, we drink 4 cups of wine, and for those who can't drink wine, we drink 4 cups of grape juice. Accordingly, those 4 cups of wine or grape juice correspond to 4 expressions of redemption that the Creator pronounced himself in the Torah, in the book of Exodus, chapter 6, verses 6 and 7, where the Creator said, Hotzesi, v'hatzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti, that I took you out, and I saved you, and I redeemed you, and I took to me to be a people. And I want to be parenthetical. All of the blessed children of Noah are the creation's creator. I want to be specific. All of the nations of the world, the blessed Bnei Noah, are also Hashem's people. But we of the nation of Israel have been given a selective, more commandment burdened role, but not that we're burdened by it. We accept our 613 commandments, and we dutifully remind the nations of the world that you had 7 universal commandments, which it is incumbent upon you to accept, because not only did our common ancestor Noah accept upon them and receive them, but also Moses, the mighty Levite prophet, received this tradition once again to retransmit out to the nations of the world these 7 universal commandments, which you can learn and Google up and speak to your local rabbi, buy a book about it. But these 4 expressions of redemption, I took you out, meaning I took you out of Egypt, I saved you from the Egyptians, I redeemed you from that first bitter taste of exile, and I've taken you to a people as a nation unto me, as receivers and internalizers and dispersers of the Torah. And our sages have taught us from the Talmudic tractate, the Jerusalem tractate, teaching us in a very more straightforward fashion in the Talmud Yerushalmi and Pesachim, which is the oral Torah tradition of how do we keep the festival of Passover, that corresponding to these 4 expressions of how the Creator said to us in the book of Exodus, these 4 expressions of how the Creator redeemed us and continues to redeem us, even at this moment, even before Chag Pesach, the festival of Pesach, because we are still under the constrictions of our own mindset and the world mindset, and even the greater community mindset, which is within the Jewish community and in the Bnei Noach community, which holds us back from fully actualizing our potential. And by way of that, the potential of the Bnei Noach are not fully actualized because of the inhibitions or prohibitions which exist in certain parts of the world where Torah is still not allowed to be preached freely, or even within countries where Torah is allowed to be spread and dispersed. People feel a certain trepidation to share such teachings for fear of repercussions. Even though the Lubavitch Rebbe spoke back in the early 1980s, we are the Jewish nation, Israelite nation, the Hebrew Israelite Jewish nation, don't have to be afraid to share such teachings. That these 4 expressions of redemption pertained to specifically 4 levels of enslavement that we were subjected to in Egypt. There were 4 particular decrees that the mighty king of Egypt, Paro, had decreed upon the nation of Israel, the children of Israel, the Hebrew slaves. And these 4 cups of wine that we drink, which correspond to the 4 expressions of redemption, were specifically an expression of redemption from the 4 harsh decrees that Pharaoh had decreed upon us, as brought down in the Midrash. One is with the fact that we should be enslaved. Number 2, that the baby boys should be killed without any reason other than the astrologers of Egypt had foresaw the Redeemer of Israel coming from within the nation of Israel to lead them out. And the third reason was, if I remember correctly, that Pharaoh at one point had some sort of skin disorder, that he would have the tiny Hebrew Israelite Jewish baby boys slaughtered, and he would bathe in their blood, but he got no relief. And the 4th decree, I don't recall. But if you want to learn about that, you can go to the Midrash in Bereshis Rabbah and Shmos Rabbah. Unfortunately, I don't have the chapters. I think it's in chapter 6, the 4th teaching in Shmos Rabbah, which is basically the great Shmos, alluding to the oral Torah tradition of the Midrash. So we see there's 4 sons, there's 4 cups of wine or grape juice drank during the celebratory processions that transpire each and every Passover, as decreed by the sages of Israel since our temple was destroyed about 1,946 or 47 years ago, which corresponded to the 4 levels of decree. Unfortunately, I forgot one of the decrees. I mentioned 3 of them. And as well, these 4 cups of wine or grape juice correspond to eventually the 4 kingdoms that even after we left Egypt and got a microcosmic taste of national redemption by entering the land of Israel under the leadership of another prophet, not Moses, but his top student, Yehoshua bin Nun. That these 4 cups of wine or grape juice that we drink correspond to the eventual 4 levels of exile that we would incur upon ourselves, because unfortunately we did not fully actualize our potential from the beginning of our initial entrance into the land of Israel. We got pretty close during the times of King Solomon and tried to return to that level of closeness to full actualization of all of our spiritual potentialities and commandment fulfillment, the rebuilding of the Second Temple, but alas, we fell short. And so we were subjected to 4 exiles. Number 1, the exile of Babylonia, the exile of Persia, and then the exile of Greek Assyria, the time relating to the story of Hanukkah, and Persia relating to the story of, which we read about in the book of Esther, which we read less than a month ago. And the last and most bitter of all the exiles, the Galus Adom, the Edomite exile, which commenced with the destruction of the temple when the Roman Empire conquered us due to our sinas chinam, our unadulterated hatred of each other amongst the Jewish people. And we have been told by our sages that sinat chinam can be nisbatel, nullified by ahavat chinam, freely loving our fellow Jewish people within our own nation, our own tribal. And now we're still in a tribal culture, although it's not as readily identifiable as it once was. But those who learn about these know that there's a tribal significance. And we know the idea of tribal significance is also something which is a tradition amongst other nations. And as I've learned in the last couple of years, especially among the native indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, America, North America. So we're still a tribal nation, but we don't act like it, or we don't fully actualize our tribal nation loyalties. And of course, while we are trying to get back to our actualization of our tribal loyalties, we remain loyal to the countries that are treating us with various levels of respect and dignity, like say here in North America and Europe, to maybe a lesser extent. It's a little bit rougher, but it's in Israel, but it's a little bit more real because we're trying to actualize some level of self-determination, which won't really fully be actualized until the Mashiach comes. With that being said, so our 4 levels of redemption and exile correspond to, again, those 4 cups. Which brings me to the point of, in our prayer liturgy, we talk about levels of truth. Levels of truth which related to going out of Egypt, and levels of truth which are referring to the truth of going out of each and every exile that we had experienced up until we still haven't experienced the truth of going out of the exile of Edom, the Edomite, Western civilization exile, which has been at times extremely cruel. In the last couple hundred years was diminished, and even after World War II, even though with the harshities and the cruelties of World War II with the Holocaust, things are still better now today, though at sometimes it seems to be more frightening because of certain activities by certain groups and promulgated by other groups. What this requires from us, if we wish to drink of such awareness, is to realize that we have a crown. And the crown that we can wear is a crown of consciousness relating to the concept of our cognitive processing of such information as I've tried to share with you, with all the glitches and me not knowing every fact, but again, hopefully affording you, so to speak, a cyberspace librarian to encourage you and motivate you to try to do the research on your own. This crown we're talking about is an external crown, which is known as Das, which relates to knowledge, sensitivity, a recognition. Das, which is one of the 3 general cognitive modes in the human being's experience of human thinking, which is uniquely being human, to Chachma, right brain thinking, wisdom-oriented thinking or processing, Bina, left brain thinking, analysis, inner understanding, and Das, which we've just touched base with, to share this insight, the idea of getting to the essence of the matter. It's a level of cognition which is essentially non-cognitive, but a matter of connecting, focusing in on the matter. And that is the crown, when you can finally focus in to the exclusion of other thoughts on whatever concept you're learning, hopefully in an analytic cognitive fashion. You're also expressing yourself as desiring this knowledge. But this desire on anyone's part, your part, my part, someone who's Yehupitzville, anywhere in the world, is a potent means by which of connecting your intellect and opening up a desire for what is known as the Panimis Amidos, the inner dimension of your emotional capacities, to plasticize them, to make them more flexible. And there's neuroplasticity, which is now a potent force for rehabilitation in the world, of bringing healing to whatever extent healing is possible, to reducing pain in the world, by giving a human being who's had some sort of traumatic brain injury or some via stroke or being in an accident, and giving this human being a new opportunity to circumvent the pain of the restriction of their movements, the pain of the restriction of their ability to speak, the pain of the restriction of being able to cognitively process matters which at one time were with the greatest of pleasure and greatest of ease, because there's another route to take. if there is a desire that exists to take. And when one can feel this sense that there's another opportunity, even if one, Baruch Hashem, thank God, has not expressed or experienced a traumatic brain injury, has not have any reduction of the movement of their right arm, of their right hand, of their left hand, whatever it may be, of their right leg, of their left leg, and their neck, and everything's functioning as well as can be, so to speak. Should be open to the sensitivities that they can fully move their bodies. They can fully think. The pleasure of speaking in order to know Creator and to express these thoughts with other people. Now I know I've gotten criticism before by certain well-meaning individuals that perhaps I'm not making full eye contact with you. The reason why I'm not in this brief video, which we're going to conclude in a few moments, because I'm looking at texts. And that's another instruction as well, as it is that we of the nation of Israel on the night of celebrating our traditional festival of freedom of expression of the birth of our nation, we look at what is known as Haggadah, which tells us, it's like an instructional guide, how to again take the past, bring it into the present, and see what we can implement into the future. We're not mantracizing anything, blessed souls, if we want our Pesach, Passover experience of being reborn as a nation again and again and again. And you might say, Don, why are you saying being reborn? Isn't that something of another faith? No, it's not. It came from us. It came from our tradition. If there was a tradition with the Bnei Noah of being reborn every moment, it doesn't insult me. Because even all the traditions of the Bnei Noah are not even known to all of us, the children of Israel, because of the great exile condition of the entire human family experience. But we know within our own blessed lives, is it every second, every millisecond, every half second, there's cellular reproduction in our body, and some of our cells are being born and some are dying. So out of the death of some of our human cells within our body, the human cells being born. From death there comes life, and from life eventually there shall be the experience of death, cessation, at some level. We can't bring back the Passover of last year, the one of 3,000 years ago, but again, can we learn from what they accomplished and what they did not accomplish? Can we learn from what we can accomplish that they did not accomplish, but are humbly reminded that we cannot accomplish anything if it were not for the accomplishments and mistakes of our ancestors? And if we can feel these matters, become sensitive to them, and desire to be connected to such matters, then yes, while we're not experiencing full freedom, we're getting a taste, a te'imah, of what will happen at the time of the universal redemption under the aegis of Mashiach Tzidkenu, our righteous Messiah, who will educate us how to shed our own personal levels of Egypt. Yes, there's some levels of Egypt that we went out of course, 3,328 years ago almost. But there's still levels of inner constriction, societal constriction, that we're still battling with. And like we know, with any sort of endeavor, whether it be artistic or athletic, practicing, going through the regimen one more time of reviewing what are your strong points and what are your weak points, what points would you like to make resolutions on to try to make life better for yourself and others. This is what the Passover Seder does for us, blessed souls. I guess at this point we'll conclude. Again, with the most heartfelt prayers and wishes that Chaya Leah Rachel, but Ester, should have a complete healing. The members of Israel, all of our people, should have a complete healing. Our hearts should be broken. My heart's been broken this week with the passing of my father, Reb Shlomo Yaakov. Allah Hashem, may rest in peace. May peace be upon him. And Huna Dovid, Alav Shalom, my grandfather, my father's father. And I wish upon healings of flesh and soul for those of my people of Israel and for all the children of Noah. Because the last couple of years have been quite heartbreaking. Whether you're a Jew or Gentile, whatever you want to consider yourself, child of the earth, child of creation, makes no difference to me how you call yourself. I know that you are the handiwork of the Creator. And may we see manifest in our days, hopefully, in a peaceful, pleasant manner, in a way of Ahav L'chad, one love, Gur L'chad, one destiny for Kulana, for all of us, but Darkinam Darki Shalom, in a pleasant and peaceful way, the actualization of Kol HaMishpach Al-Adamah, all the families of the earth, who shall join together in a dance which is circular, alluding to the circle of life, and the cessation of life, and from the cessation of life, the renewal of life, which we Israel try to experience the night of our hallowed Pesach Seder. And I have to say this, as I've mentioned it many times, we have got to be good. And I first talked to myself, and I mentioned to you, blessed souls, and this might generate ambivalence. It might create anxiety. It might even create apathy. Why should I be good? The teva tov leheti, it's the nature of the good to do good. And since the Creator put you on this earth, you've got to be pretty good. Just a matter of actualizing it, as we will try to be actualizing the rebirth of our nation this year. Pesach, 5,776 years since the beginning of original man and woman are blazing and grazing upon this earth. Hamshich Be'ezer Hashem Yisparach, to be continued with the blessings of the Most High. In the most existential moment, I've got to take a phone call. Take care, everyone.